Welcome back, baseball fans. This is another eliminating video, eliminating the Baltimore Orioles. What you're looking at now, however, is last year's stats of the Orioles in a 77-80 season in which they won the World Series, beating the Cincinnati Reds. And you see some interesting numbers here for a team to win it all. A 240 team batting average, which is stunning to win the whole thing when you hit that poorly. They scored 178 runs, though. They gave up 162 runs, just a plus 16. 3.04 ERA, very excellent there. The bats, you had a surprising Carlos Lopez outlier card that 320 with some stolen bases and some power. Kenny Singleton did his on base, a little bit of power, but his batting average is down. Batting average is down was the key everywhere. None of the Oriole players hit as good as they could have. Since they had 12 homers to lead the team, but at 239, Eddie Murray hit 2 home runs in 41 games and hit 211. Team at 240, just dismal, really. But they won the World Series. They, of course, would do it with pitching. Palmer, 9-4. The best stat here for him is the 11 complete games in the third from the right column. That set up the bullpen to be used heavily in the other starters' work. Dennis Martinez and Scott McGregor didn't do particularly well with high ERAs. Team ERA was 3.04 because of that bullpen. Stanhouse, Stoddard, Tippy Martinez picking up the slack for those starters. Mike Flanagan was outstanding as well. That's what happened a year ago. And now the stats for this season. And technically, they had a better year in this season. Slightly with batting average, 248, still lower than it should be. The pitching got even better with a 2.72 ERA, but they were 23-16, which means they played 8 fewer games. In those 8 games, they would have gone 5-3 to advance to the World Series. And they lost in the championship round this year, so that's how close it was to a repeat. Some interesting batting here. Nolan brought in to help the offense, did a nice job of the platoon with Dempsey. Rich Dower had a high on base and batting average and a surprise. Singleton, again, walks and hits plenty of home runs, paces the offense. Eddie Murray did better, 268 with 3 home runs. Larry Heisel was a pretty pricey free agent addition. He had 9 home runs, but only hit 242. DeCince's batting average is down to 200 with 5 homer and 14 RBI. So again, another disappointing year of offense for Baltimore, and yet they advanced to Game 6 of the League Championship Series in 2 straight years of stellar pitching. This iteration of the pitching staff, you see that Palmer was actually 5-6 with the second worst ERA on the team at 3.58. Not as many complete games either. It was Scott McGregor and Mike Flanagan, the 2 lefties, who were outstanding, going 11-4 combined. The untouchable bullpen again, Tippy Martinez, Don Stanhouse, Sammy Stewart, Tim Stoddard. The top 4 pitchers all were relievers for Baltimore. And that's how they got back to the League Championship Series. But now it's time to transition out of the 1978 cards, which is probably good for Baltimore because 78 was a bad year for them. They were good in 79, they were good in 82 and 83, and those years are coming up. So they could actually theoretically get better. I believe some guy named Cal Ripken will be a rookie next year. So let's take a peek now at ball number stack, and we're going to pull out those 78 guys and see who's coming and going for Baltimore. Still very much in a World Series window for Baltimore. Frankly, so are the Red Sox and Yankees, if I might say that as well. I got 1 card too many in here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. 1 more to get the accounting right. 1 more 78 guy to pull out. There he is. So these are the 8 players from the 78 who will be going either kept or going away. And some familiar names in Baltimore and some unfamiliar names. It's a mix. So some are keepers, some are going away. But they're going to start with 12 guys. And it's going to be 7 hitters and 5 pitchers for Baltimore. They're going to have Nolan as one catcher. They're going to have Murray at first, I believe, yeah. Dower can be second base. Sakata can be second or short. No third baseman here. And a bunch of outfielders. You could platoon Lowenstein and Rudy. And you have Kenny Singleton. No center fielder present. The 5 pitchers. It's the 2 lefty starters, McGregor, Flanagan, and 3 relievers, Stewart, Stoddard, and Martinez, the most effective ones. Plus, they have 3 left-handed pitchers in tow, so they don't have to go looking for one. So this is a very strong core of 12 players for Baltimore. So let's see what they decide to do with the 8 guys from 1978 to see if they can get back to the League Championship Series for the 3rd year in a row. All right, baseball fans, before I go on to this, I just discovered that on Baseball Reference that Gaylord Perry passed away. Great pitcher and a great guy in the carryover league, and it's kind of a sad day for Gaylord to pass away. It's a shame, but you know, I'll get to see him. I'll be drafting him as a Cleveland Indian in the summer league and get to play his card next year. And you know, so it's kind of sad to see that Gaylord Perry's passed away. I wanted to bring that up before I go into this video. So we're going to look at 8 Baltimore players and see who's coming back and who's going away. And the first guy is Mark Belanger. We'll take a peek at him. He actually goes to LA at the end of his career for a year in '82. Interestingly, Baltimore's a shortstop and Cal Ripken taking his place at that point. But here we are. Belanger just finished up this year. 79 he'll be a 1. 80 he becomes a 2. So if you value that, you could bring him back as a 1 with a 167 batting average. But he's a 1E8. He's in the league. I don't care. He's a 1E8 shortstop. He's playing. I don't care. It's 137. I value shortstop that much. 35-year-old shortstop, by the way, would be a 1E8. So I don't care about the batting average. So yeah, they're going to bring him back. Mark Belanger. And a kind of a surprising move. All right, next guy up here, folks, and I'm going to try and make this like traditional baseball. It's Doug DeCinces. So, he had a great, and you see he's got an Angel hat right there, an Oriole hat right there. So, you know, 78 was a great year in Baltimore, and then after that, not so much for 3 years. 82 is in play, and you could trade him. I'm not going to let the Orioles keep him with this card. I don't normally do that. I sort of let baseball history continue. And so he'll get that performance with the Angels, whether the Orioles bring DeCinces back with a 79, 80, or 81 card, or just make the deal now. If I'm the Angels, I make the deal now and get to get a 4-year contract with that card, particularly if you're going to the World Series now and you want to potentially repeat next year. So DeCinces is a technical keeper, but the trade with California could be happening. Of course, he was not traded to California. He was a free agent. Next player, Rick Dempsey, became a folk hero in Baltimore. They loved his scrappy play. They called him the Dipper. Would be a broadcaster for him as well. Dempsey, 78 was a pretty darn good year for Rick, as you'll see. Hit 259, nice year. Highest average in the timeline is an 80 at 262 with a -3 arm, and bingo, that'll be the card, as he doesn't do any better than that. So he's got an 81, he's got a -4 arm, but he hits 215, by the way. Dempsey's coming back to Baltimore. Now, what's going to happen, I guarantee what's going to happen is they're going to have too many keepers, and some of these guys are going to have to go on waivers. Possibly even Mark Belanger. Now, when he goes on waivers, anybody could sign him, but Baltimore could hold out hope that nobody wants to deal with a putrid batting average. And so they sign him back off the street, as nobody claims him off waivers. So we have time, of course, to make that evaluation. Next player is Larry Heisel. Great year in 78. His last really good year leaving the Twins, going to the Brewers. Let's see how this plays out. He had some bad years in the 60, 70, and 71, missed 72, came back strong in 73 with the Twins, and then they traded him to Milwaukee in 78, and he had a monster year, but he could not follow it up. He suffered a lot of injuries. They make a 79 card, but it only hits righties, doesn't hit lefties. It's not very good. So Baltimore will put Larry Heisel on waivers because the 79 card exists. We can confirm that by going to the roster sheet for 79. He's got to have a Strat-O-Matic card to get waivers. So we're going to look at Milwaukee and see if we see Larry Heisel. And we do right there. So he will be put on waivers. That's 4. Next guy is Lee May, another guy who may be on the way out. Came from Cincinnati to Houston to Baltimore. Lee May. But I think, he has a renaissance. He really does. His bat comes back with a couple nice years in the early 80s, but not in Baltimore. Not with the Orioles. Let's take a peek. So 78, he hits 25 home runs. Baltimore could bring him back with his 19 homers in 79. But then in 81 and 82, he hits 291 and 308 with Kansas City at ages 38 and 39. So his career will continue. But I'm thinking that he'll have to do it on waivers. Unless they can trade him. I don't think they can trade him. They're going to put him on waivers. Lee May. All right. Now you got the 3 pitchers. The first one is Jim Palmer. A no-brainer. We got some good news for Jim Palmer fans here. And that is, his last great year was 1982, and that card is in play. But is it better than 79 or 80 or 81? It's an interesting call. So 78, he started in that All-Star game in New York. Didn't pitch very well. His last 20-win season. So Jim Palmer will not win 20 games anymore. 79, he doesn't pitch on 3 days rest. He does pitch on 3 days rest in 80 and 82. His whip is the best when he leads all of baseball with it in 1982 at 113, second in Cy Young votes, and that's a 4-year contract. That's a no-brainer, folks. 82 Palmer will be the pick, and that's a 4-year contract. And that's that's the magic of the 4-year carryover league. You literally, let's take a look at the long career of Jim Palmer for a moment. You can pick and choose one out of the 4 years the whole time from 1965 on. Pick which year you want. Let's say you want to pick 69. And then when that card's up, you got your choice here. You could pick 73. And then when that card is up, you could pick one of these, such as 75-7. And that card's up, you can go to 82. So you basically have a Cy Young performance of Jim Palmer that spans 3 decades, from 69 all the way to 1982. That's why we have the carryover league, folks, so that these Hall of Famers are amazing. Plus they play for one team the whole time. So Jim Palmer will continue his Hall of Fame career in Baltimore. No brainer. 2 more guys. Dennis Martinez. Now, Dennis really does not put it together too much in Baltimore. He would find success later on with the Expos, with that hat, and with the Indians. And in this particular era, he's a little all over the place. 79, he's got actually a good year. He's got a losing record, but he's okay. 3.66 ERA. 80, not so much, got hurt. 81, he's got an excellent year. 3.32, but then 82 and 83 and 84 are bad. And then after that, he goes to Montreal. So, with a logjam of keepers and a player who has a very nice year in 81 and pitches on 3 days rest in 79, you like to keep him, but you have too many keepers, you see. So, it seems like they might just let baseball history do what it did and let Dennis Martinez go. So they can put him on waivers, or they could trade him. I'm going to write trade here, because they're putting him on waivers, but whoever they trade him to would make him a keeper. And the last guy is Don Stanhouse. Now, he only has one more good year in his whole career. And this is a numbers game. Don Stanhouse is a nice 1979 All-Star, 2.85 ERA, high whip, and he's an All-Star there, 2.85. That's it. And after that, he's done. Do you want to keep that? You got five. You really have five guys, four guys plus Martinez, five guys. You're expecting a trade to Sensei's, so you want Belanger because I think you could put Cal Ripken at third base to take the Sensei spot. So this trade's going to happen. Exclamation point there. You can trade. You can put Cal Ripken at third base for his entire rookie year of '82, and put Belanger at shortstop. So you've got great defense in Baltimore for another year. Dempsey's not going anywhere either. Palmer's not going anywhere. So it's a choice between Martinez and Stanhouse. Well, you know what, folks? Maybe we do keep Dennis Martinez. This is the fun part of this league. There. Now maybe you keep Dennis Martinez and Jim Palmer. Because you know you got 82 Palmer, you got 81 Martinez, you got 79 Belanger. Dempsey's best year is 80. So that's 79, 80, 81, 82. Each of your four guys you want to keep have a good year in a separate year, which is very balanced. And you're willing to trade Doug DeCinces to California. You'll get a lot in return. Maybe you'll get Carney Lansford in the deal. Of course, you won't need him with Cal Ripken coming on board. But maybe in a year from now you will. Yeah, I think Cal Ripken will play third base in year one. Then Belanger will retire after 79. And then they'll move Ripken to shortstop. That's a little improvisation on how it went down in Baltimore. But that looks like 5 keepers, 3 waivers. They still got to retire a couple guys. And when we look at the entire league now, here are the numbers up top here. We have plus 25 keepers, -6, -19 wavered and retired players. That's excellent. That means 25 desirable players who want to be kept but will end up being on waivers and be very good players. So that is it tonight for the Eliminating Orioles video. Thanks for checking this out. We'll see you next time.